Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona, and I'm taking a look at the feature race on Saturday at Aqueduct. It is the Franklin Square Stakes for the 2-year-old New York bred fillies going 6 furlongs. We'll see if this race actually goes off. There is some very cold weather predicted in the New York area on Saturday specifically. I think highs are in the low 20 degrees with a wind chill that's about 10 degrees below that. So we'll see if the powers that be at the New York Racing Association decide to go ahead with that Saturday racing card. But if this race is contested, it's a pretty interesting one to handicap. Let's throw up the field for this race. 9 horses entered for this Franklin Square, and it's a pretty wide open affair. We've got, I could think 5 horses that I listed at 5-1 or lower on the morning line. We'll see where the public decides to go. I think the 2 fillies drawn towards the middle of the starting gate, Moab and Lilu, could vie for favoritism in this spot. Both of those horses, though, can have to contend with an interesting pace situation as we take a look at the Timeform US pace projector. One of those is a speed, one of those is a closer, so we'll see which one ends up being helped or hurt by that. The pace projector thinks that the pace is going to be pretty quick on the front end, so maybe that works against that 3-1 morning line favorite Lilu. And when you look through the field of this race, a lot of lightly raced horses who have shown speed in their prior starts, including that one who's shown on the early lead, the number 4 Thin Legs, who's coming in from Finger Lakes. She won her maiden in Gate to Wire faster than her debut and has shown speed in both starts, and some others shown just in behind, like the number 1 Maravilloso, the number 2 She Is a Wild Joker. Those are stalking types that are going to be pressing those likely leaders towards the front end. So we'll see if that sets up for the number 5 Moab, the second choice on the line, who is shown all the way towards the back of the pack on the pace projector. And I think let's transition right into Moab and her replay when she broke her maiden on debut back at the end of August at Saratoga. You can see that's her highlight coming up the rail in this race, and she did get a good pace setup to close into in this spot as well. Not as far back as she is predicted to be in this Franklin Square. She was 5th on the backstretch of this race, but she just hugged the rail the entire way around the far turn under Jose Ortiz, and the 2 leaders got very tired at the end of this race, and Moab able to sneak up the inside to beat both of them by about a length and a half at the wire. Now, Moab did have some things working in her favor that day, as I said. They kind of knocked heads up front, so she got a decent pace to close into. You also see in the Timeform USPPs that blue color-coded race rating box all the way to the left. That indicates that on August 26th at Saratoga was a day that a lot of horses won from off the pace. That blue color coding indicates a closer's bias. That's what the algorithm spit out based on the results of that day. So maybe Moab had some things working in her favor. Also, she's been off now for, I think it says, 142 days since she won that debut all the way back at the end of August. So clearly there was some setback that kept her off the track for a number of months. And she's coming back going the same 6.5 furlong distance, but she feels like a horse that's ultimately going to want to go longer distances. She's a half sister to Papa Shot, a confirmed dirt router, as well as Sharp Star, a stakes winning dirt router. So a lot of stamina on the bottom side of the pedigree. So we'll see if she's ultimately going to be best going a sprint distance, as she'll be contesting when she makes her return. Another horse that I think you have to pay some attention to is the number 2, She's a Wild Joker, a horse that just has a lot of experience in a race where many others are lightly raced runners that are stepping up to face winners for the first time. She's a Wild Joker has already made 4 starts against winners, and she actually won a stakes 2 back at Finger Lakes when she took down the She's a Stone Cold Fox. Only got a 79 Timeform US speed figure that day, but she came back out of that race and got no respect on the tote board last time in the key sense, going off at 38-1. She actually ran a respectable 3rd with a 90 Timeform US speed figure. That number puts her in the mix here. She's not the kind of horse that needs the early lead, although she can sit close to the pace. So I anticipate She's a Wild Joker will get a decent trip in this race. It's just a matter of whether or not she can continue to move forward, because a lot of the other lightly raced runners do appear that they might have more upside than her, but she is one that I would consider using underneath. Another horse that I think you might want to take a look at that's coming out of a maiden race, and there are many of those in this race, is the number 3 Sterling Silver. Kind of like Moab, who we just discussed, she won her debut, and let's take a look at the replay of that debut victory when she won on November 21st at Aqueduct. Not coming off the same kind of layup as Moab, so that's a positive, but like that horse, she also closed from off the pace to win. She's doing so on the outside there with that white blaze. There she is closing down the center of the track to just get by these 2 leaders as they get to the wire. Makes it pretty close to the end. She only gets up to win this race by a nose, but she does win for Tom Albertrani, a trainer that's really not known for having his first time starters cranked up to win on debut. So I think it's a feather in the cap of Sterling Silver that she was able to get the job done that day. Did not get a ton of respect on the tote board, going off at 17-1. So she might be a candidate to move forward in her second start, though the one negative is while she was 17-1 that day, I do anticipate she'll be a much lower price this time. I've got her pegged at 5-1 on the morning line, but she definitely is a candidate to move forward, and she might get the right pace setup if that time form US pace projector is proven to be correct. The recent maiden winner that I think could attract the most support is the number 6 Lilu. Let's take a look at her second race when she won on December 11th. A very impressive victory. The track came up sloppy this day. Clearly, she had no trouble handling that going as she stalked the pace on the outside early, and she takes over with authority in the stretch, and she pulls clear pretty impressively to win by nearly 8 lengths at the end. Definitely relishing the going, but it's not like she had a great pace setup because the early pace of this race was on the quick side, and she was pressing it the entire way. She was flattered when the runner-up in this race, Rebos Valentine, came back to win at Aqueduct last week. She improved her time formula speed figure up to a 90 in her second career start, so that really validates that high 93 time formula speed figure that Lilu got when she broke her maiden in that race. She goes out for a low-profile barn in David Duggan, but while he doesn't have a big stable, he's a trainer that certainly knows what to do with a good horse, and I think Lilu has to be taken seriously in this race. In some ways, she is the horse to beat, and I think she does deserve to be the favorite. I've got her pegged as the lukewarm one at that, at 3-1 on the morning line. Let's take a look at one more contender. That's the horse that's breaking all the way from the outside, the number 9, Thinking It Over. And we'll take a look at her debut effort when she won on November 12th at Aqueduct. This was an off-the-turf affair. She drew in from the main track only list as the number 16 on this occasion, but this was a race that had some well-meant main track only runners. I think there were 4 of them entered in this race, and they actually completed the trifecta here with the runner-up Bank on Anna and the third place finisher True Empress. They were also main track only runners. Thinking It Over, I thought she ran really well to win this race. She took a lot of tote support, getting bet down to 2-1 for Ray Handel, a trainer that doesn't always have his first-time starters cranked up to win their debuts, but she was with the flow of the track that day. That's the one kind of caveat I have with her. November 12th was a day where you really did not want to be down on the rail, and Thinking It Over got the right kind of trip, basically going 3 to 4 wide around the far turn and continuing on the 2 path for much of the stretch run. So she had that working in her favor. Still, I like what I saw from this filly on debut. She had trained really well into her first start. There was some buzz about her coming into this race, even though she was entered as a main track only. And if you look at her work tab since then, she's laid down some bullet workouts in the morning. She had a really fast workout back on December 11th, a month out from that debut effort. And I think she's coming into this race continuing to do well for Ray Handel. And furthermore, she's drawn a really advantageous outside post position. So her rider, Dylan Davis, will have some options to see what all of those speeds drawn to the inside are doing. And he can kind of pick his spot, stalking them on the outside. So we'll throw out my picks for this race. I like that number 9 horse, Thinking It Over. I've made her my top pick in here. I've got her pegged at 9-2 on the morning line. I'd want a price like that. I feel like this is a race where the money is going to be pretty evenly spread around, and she's one that I think will take some of it, but I believe she'll be a decent price at about the 3rd or 4th choice in the wagering. So I put Thinking It Over on top, hoping she gets that right kind of outside stalking trip. I've got that number 6, Lilu, who I do think is the horse to beat in second, and She's a Wild Joker and Sterling Silver, those late runners underneath. But it's the number 9, Thinking It Over for me in the Franklin Square Stakes on Saturday at Aqueduct.